considered divorce. We thought about murder a couple of times. A lot of the women there look like men. In fact, for $10,000 you can become a man.
Oh.
So we'll put on a seminar for the new politicians and will be there to officiate. The deputy mayor was Vladimir Putin. I won't say that. I did tap dance. I did. When I go on a grave, well, I'm not going to. I decided I've got a tattoo right here on my arm.
Oh.
Right here. In the Crimea, I was there that week doing seminars. And Asian people, because
I'm always smiling. I always get some cripples in my muscles.
and I hope to be back there doing it again when the time is right.
We are looking forward to see you again.
My name is Anastasia Anisimova. I'm a Neurographics instructor since 2021, and I will be glad to draw together with you today.
This is amazing, my friends. I couldn't even think about it, that I will be in the same studio, at the same table, with the great person, my teacher, the person who everybody adores in Russia, the person who wrote 18 books, translated into 56 languages, and the total edition is 31 million copies of the books. This is fantastic. Today we will have Neurographics with Allan Pease. Applause.
Спасибо.
Oh, Allan.
I'm very glad to see you, Allan. Thank you very much for coming here. We will have an interview and we will do Neurographics. Thank you very much for saying, is it a rumors or true that the first time when you came to Russia you had the royalty in caviar and vodka?
When I came to Russia, I think that might be a story. It sounds like an exciting idea, Anastasia, but I don't remember it. Maybe I had too much vodka. I might have been drunk.
You know, we have a royalty for you. We have been prepared. We have brought some caviar from Moscow. We did not bring some vodka.
Beautiful. Спасибо.
Thank you. So, let's start. Before we start the interview, I would like to explain you about Neurographics in a couple of words. A scientist who is a doctor of biological science, Pavel Piskarev, he created Neurographics. It's about Carl Jung, who wrote 100 years ago that symbols for our subconscious are more important than speech. And we can reach our subconscious with symbols much faster than the speech, without any will of power, without any particular efforts. Through visual image, we can reach our task, our goal, and our dream to the subconscious, and it will start coming through. Also, while our movement of the fingers, when we draw, we generate new neurons and new neural connections. So in order to start drawing the goal, I would like to know your goal. Do you have a dream? Do you have a goal that you would like to draw, that you need to implement?
A goal that I would like to draw. Wow. That's a big question, Anastasia. A goal I'd like to draw. Like, what sort of goal are you thinking? What are you thinking?
This can be anything, health, profit, some kind of prize, or maybe drawing with someone else, because it was my dream to draw with you.
Спасибо. Okay, so well, a health goal, definitely. I'm very keen on health. I go to the gymnasium most days and I eat a healthy vegetarian diet and I exercise all the time. So health is a really key thing for that. So what would I draw for that?
Okay, let's draw health. We need 2 pieces of paper. In order to activate the neurons that we are going to draw, we need to make a small exercise. You write health in your language. Just write health. And then within 2 minutes, you will write out all associations that you have with this word. Write down any word. This is free writing exercise, so you write anything that you have. The faster you, the better. Any words, it can be verbs, nouns, adjectives, and even if you have negatives, if you have fears, spill them out, because this is important. Then we will have something to work with. Are you ready?
Yes, so it's everything related to health.
Are you ready? Then we'll start. So everybody can work on health with the great person, Allan Pease. Join us now. Take a piece of paper and let's draw health together. So let's start. 2 minutes.
I can't write that fast.
I have a bit of experience in that.
Yeah.
What about time? Time is out. Great. Were you able to write 20 words? Because we need at least 20 words.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
We need to write some more words. I have more than 20. It can be any words.
Can I have some of yours?
Yes, of course. Look, happiness, positive attitude, food, weight. I wrote a specific weight, 62 kilos. By the way, thanks to Neurographics, I have been able to maintain my weight for more than 3 years.
I wrote about weight. I used to weigh more than 100 kilos, and through Neurographics, I managed to lose a lot of weight. Neurographics really works. So, love to my body, discipline, routine, sport. One word, my pregnancy. My husband will be shocked, but I'm thinking about pregnancy. I want to look 10 years younger.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's good. Me too. Tell me more.
So, routine, diet, discipline, love to body, young, being young, happiness, mental health.
Yeah.
Look 10 years younger than without pain. This is also something I wrote. A particular weight that I want to reach. And bathing swim, bathing suit, summer, bathing, because this is my motivation to look fine. And allergy, because my children are allergic, so for me it's important.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5. 20.
Okay. Great.
If you have never tried Neurographics before, but want to join us today, click the link in the description. You will find a free trial lesson where you will learn what is a neurographic line and neurographic alphabet. And then you can return to our interview and draw together with us.
So we are ready to start. We take our canvas. This canvas will be your memory about this session. It would be great if you could put this drawing somewhere where you see it. Then you will remember about it and you will always remember about your health. that you are healthy, and all the words will remind you about that. So take a marker and start drawing lines from different parts of your canvas. You have to draw a lot of lines, many lines from different places. But remember that the line should not repeat itself, and it should go somewhere into unexpected place. Great. You have a wonderful neurographic line.
Yeah. Looks like my body.
What was the last time when you drew?
Maybe age 10.
Great.
Well, actually, no, it would be later because in my books that have a lot of illustrations, I drew the rough illustrations for the illustrators.
You did the illustration by yourself?
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah.
This is really super. Cool.
They're not that good.
People start drawing before they start talking and writing. If a 2-year-old gets a pencil, he starts drawing right away. Maybe he's not capable of speaking yet, but he starts drawing. One couple of more lines. Our task is to create as many lines as possible in order to discover all inner crossings that are related to this topic. You have a very unusual drawing.
A very unusual guy.
This is true. But try not to draw straight lines, because some of your lines are too straight. We want to make it curvy. The life should be bionic. It should look like life, like a river, because no river has straight lines.
Yeah.
Good.
Perfect. Ideal. Now we pick some points where we have most crossings. So, for example, these ones, these are your thoughts, your feelings about your health. And now it is the time to write a circle that will harmonize everything that you feel inside. In the points where you can have several circles, in the points where you have more crossings. You don't need to have perfect circle. This is not a geometry lesson. We need to make a round shape. Fantastic. Maybe somewhere else?
How many?
As many as you wish. And the circles can cross. They don't need to be separate. Wonderful. Now we start rounding the corners. All the crossing points have to be rounded. And now we can start talking. Will you be able to do this and talk?
Well, being a man, it's difficult because in one of the books we talk about men not being able to do two things at once. So I will definitely do my best, Anastasia. Okay, so it's where the crossing points are, we fill them in.
Let me see. Yes, you have to fill them in and also round them. The idea is to round them like this. Okay, now we start our interview. I don't remember how many years ago I read the answer, but about 90% of the contacts in my Instagram are based on this book. Because we write lists of wishes, we write our goals, we visualize. And many people are grateful to you. They visited your seminars in Russia and Moscow. And for them, this will be a big surprise because they still do not know who is my guest today. I want to ask you, what is the most extraordinary dream was fulfilled in your life thanks to RAS? I will explain to the people who do not know about RAS. The RAS is described in this book. Unless you have read the book, you should immediately read the book. This is a great book. So what is the most extraordinary desire and wish came true because of your methods?
Most extraordinary? Well, so many, but I have to think about it. Decided back in the 1970s to run seminars in the Soviet Union. And it was not possible because the Iron Curtain was there, and as the Western, I couldn't get in. I mean, Gorbachev's, but I decided, I wrote, I will give seminars in the Soviet Union. And people say, how do you do that? I go, I don't know, but that's what I'm going to do. But you can't get in, they steal your kidneys. I said, no, I don't know how I'll do it, but this is what I'll do. And when Gorbachev signed off the Soviet Union, Barbara and I caught a plane and we went to Moscow and decided to make Russia almost like our second home. And so we arrived in Russia, and that was 34 years ago. And we've been back there at least 3 months of the year since. So that all started by writing down something on a piece of paper, which is the goal. And this is the secret of the RAS. Once you write it down, the RAS starts to search for the answers. So immediately I wrote down, give seminars in the Soviet Union. I remember I turned the television on, and there was a TV show called Wild Animals of the Siberia. And I'd never seen that before. And I thought, well, that's where we're going to go. So I watched the series. And I wondered, how long has that series been on my TV? It had been there for 6 months, and I never saw it. But when I decided to go to the Soviet Union, suddenly I saw it. And that's the secret of the RAS. When you write something, you'll actually see the thing. It will appear around you. So that's probably the most exciting thing, because I've had a long love affair with Russia for 34 years as a result. How am I going here, Anastasia? Am I doing okay?
Tell me, is it true that one of the first seminars that you gave in Russia was for Anatoly Sobchak and Vladimir Putin? Is that true?
That was the very first seminar I did at the Winter Palace, yes. Yeah, when I arrived in Russia, I decided I need to find a famous person I can be the consultant to, which will establish us in Russia. And they said, that's Boris Yeltsin, the new president, the dancing guy. And we made 3 appointments to see him, but he never showed up. And one of the guys in our film crew said, I know a guy, my brother knows this guy, Anatoly Sobchak. He's the first democratically elected politician, and he's quite a forward-thinking guy. So I said, well, tell Anatoly we'll put on a seminar for the new politicians in Russia on how to go on TV and be credible to the world. And he thought this was a great idea. And so we put on this half-day seminar at the Winter Palace. And Anatoly didn't turn up that day because he had another appointment. But he said the deputy mayor will be there to officiate. The deputy mayor was Vladimir Putin, because his first job after the KGB was deputy mayor of St. Petersburg.
I have a suspicion that Vladimir Putin knows how to write wish lists now.
Yeah, I think he might, yeah. He's good with the body language, that's for sure.
By the way, tell me about the body language. For some reason, I haven't read this book yet. Out of your 18 books, only several are published in Russia. And body language, now I'm reading it, even I have a bookmark here. I hope you will sign it for me. But intuitively, it is clear. Maybe because how many years ago you wrote this? 40 years ago? We know that you shouldn't cross your legs, you should smile, we know that.
Yeah. Well, how many years ago did I write the book?
Да.
Well, the original book I wrote when I was 24 years old. That's back in the 1970s. It's been rewritten 3 times since, and this is the latest, most modern version of it. And I thought it was something that everybody knew about. I thought it was obvious that you could look at someone and see by their behaviour and what they might do next. And what I discovered that most women saw this too. Most women could say, yeah, I don't trust him. Why don't you trust him? There's just something about the guy. And they couldn't exactly pinpoint what it was that they were seeing. So I wrote the first body language book, which documented the things that people were seeing that gave them the gut feelings. And that's how it works, because 60 to 80% of all the impact we make on other people when we're face to face is done with non-verbal behaviour. And so most of how you come across to someone is the way you look, appear and behave, not what you say, because what you say can be twisted, changed, and when we lie with our mouth, with our words. We don't lie with our body. Body tells you the truth. And so body language is simply an outward expression of emotions. So whatever emotion you're feeling, like happy or sad or angry or proud, is likely to be reflected in gestures, movements and expressions. So the art of reading body language is simply you're reading a person's emotional condition. You compare it to what you hear them saying in circumstances under which it happens, And when you become good at it, you can figure out what's going on in their mind. And women have a natural ability more than men to be able to do this. And this is the reason we say to men, that's why you can't lie to women to their face. And you should, especially if she knows you, never lie to women to their face. And for any men watching this program, I say don't lie to women to their face. Make a phone call, SMS, text. Don't face to face, because she's going to pick it. She'll know you're lying.
Where did you get this information? When you were 24, did you study body language, or did you receive this information out of the universe, from the flow?
Well, when I was that age, there was no, body language was not a word. There was no such thing. There was non-verbal communication was not an art or a science. There were a few tightly written manuscripts in universities, but they weren't helpful for anybody. In the 1960s, I'd been teaching negotiators and salespeople how to present their case and how to work out whether people were likely to say yes or no. And part of that was how to identify by their behaviour and movements what they might do next. And so we made films using 16mm film of these situations and put them together as a training course. So, for example, if you ask somebody, well, would you like to buy now? And they sit back and they cross their arm or do this, they normally would give an objection and not buy. Whereas if you say, well, would you sign now? And if they lean forward, just give them the pen and they'll sign it. And that way you know when to speak and when to shut up when you're selling and negotiating. So it started with a very practical base, and it was extremely popular everywhere, especially with men, because most negotiators and salespeople back in the 70s were men. You didn't see many women at all. And when I'd run seminars, the men would come and they were amazed that such a thing could exist. But their wives and girlfriends said, yes, that's what happens. So the women knew that's exactly what happens. They did not know how they knew, but they knew. And it makes sense. Now with modern brain scans, we can see what part of the brain's operating to give women these intuitive gut feelings. And it makes sense in evolutionary terms as a woman that your brain is organised to see any predators that might be approaching, or if any strangers are approaching, how you can work out will they be friendly or aggressive before they come close. That was never an issue for men in ancient times. If strangers approaching, you're not sure, you just hit him with a big stick or hit him with a rock. Also, it makes sense too for women as childbearers that for the first 2 years of human birth with a baby, they can't speak. We give birth to completely useless children. They can't do anything. Most other animals within hours can stand up and run or walk or climb. Our children can't. They're basically useless. So it makes sense that female brains would be organised with the ability to decode the non-verbal signals of baby to know, is it hungry, is it frightened, is it tired, is it injured? And we did some experiments that I called the crying baby test by having movie films of crying babies, and we show it to men and women with the sound turned off. And they have to decide, what's this baby want? And women could determine 7 different meanings. Men just saw a crying baby. And they said, oh yeah, I know what it wants. It wants its mother.
This is really fantastic. So this method was developing by you, and you created it, and you tested it with your experiments, and you created the book.
Well, the thing about body language, it's always been there, because speaking for us as humans is a relatively new thing in evolutionary terms, maybe 40,000 years. So it's brand new, but our whole existence as humans has been like most other animal species, non-verbal behaviour, which they needed the ability to work out whether other animals angry or friendly or aggressive. So I didn't really create it. I documented it for the average person. I documented what it meant and how it would work. And so the average person could read it and look at it through these books, and we made TV shows and we made movies, and they could understand what it was they were seeing. So now they could do it intentionally to build better relationships, personally or in business. How am I going with this?
Could I help you? See here, like this. So you have to fill in a bit more, like this. We round it like this. See, our task is to round all the corners, because every corner is an inner conflict for the subconscious. All of this corners you have to fill in. Bad news, right?
Yeah, can be.
But when you fill them in and when you round them all, your inner conflict is being resolved, and the mind starts looking for a solution for the task. while you're around in the corners, I would like to tell you how neurographics is spreading in the world. You know why we are drawing? Because I read your book. I was really impressed by it. I read it several times, but during the last time, I read the section where you moved from Australia to Great Britain. By the way, I'm not in a particularly difficult situation like you were. I don't have any bankruptcy. I don't need to live in a mill, but I have a big goal. I want to approach the world's market. I want neurographics to be known in the world. I want people to draw and fulfill their dreams. So I was reading your book, and I really loved a sentence in it. We, with Barbara, like rock stars, we visited 30 countries with our tours. And I was thinking, I want to this too. I want to visit 30 countries per year. I want to hold big master classes on neurographics abroad, because in Russia we already have master classes. Just recently we had a master class for 4,000 people in a huge concert hall. Can you imagine 4,000 people drawing together at the same time? And for me, you are a big motivator, because for those who haven't read the book, I want them to. Can you tell the story of you moving from Australia to Great Britain practically without money, with your wife only having hopes?
Well, we had hopes, and we had $2,000 that I borrowed from my father, because in the early 90s, Barbara and I had become very wealthy people. We both come from poor villages in Australia, and we'd built enormous wealth through our business and our books and our television shows. And we were really great at what we did, but we weren't really good with finances. We left it to accountants, and the accountants had stolen all the money. They'd stolen our assets. So we lost everything, and we finished up with no money, plus debts of $3 million owed to the tax department. Yeah, and the tax department's not a good person to owe money to, because they come after you. And so we decided, well, to get out of that, we would sell our way out. We'd do what we know best. We'd write books. But the interesting thing about that, we decided only to write #1 best-selling books. Because if you write a book, an average book sells 2,000 copies. So authors don't make much money. A bestseller might sell 10, 20, 30, 40,000 copies, so that's pretty good. A #1 bestseller will sell hundreds of thousands or millions. So we said, we have to do that.
So you can just make a decision that I'm going to write bestsellers. I don't want to write ordinary books.
Well, #1 bestsellers. We just decided to write bestsellers. And that completely changed how our minds saw what you write. Instead of writing, most people who write a book and essays, so they write because they have an urge to get something on paper. They want to get it out and put it on paper, which is good. But they don't sell many, because unless somebody feels the same about you as the same subject, they don't buy it. That's why books only sell maybe 2,000 copies. So we decided we would only write books that people would knock us over in a rush to get one. And that's a different type of writing. So suddenly we started seeing best-selling lists on everywhere, Amazon, in all the different countries, in the bookstores. What were people paying money to buy? And that we could write. And we decided to write a book about relationships, because with relationships, they were in trouble in the early 90s everywhere in the world. Marriage breakups were prolific, and people weren't getting married, and divorces were everywhere, and men and women just didn't get on. And Barbara and I at the time weren't getting on either. We never considered divorce. We thought about murder a couple of times. Divorce. So we decided to write a list of all the things about each other we could not live with anymore. And that became that first book. And as we're writing it, I remember I said to Barbara, this is going to be big. This is going to be really, really big. She said, you really think it will be? I said, yeah, I can just feel it. It's going to be great. And I remember we were driving down a major highway going to take it to the printer. And I said, are you ready for this, babe? This is going to be the biggest thing in the world. And I just kind of knew that's what it was. And we wrote that book because we had to write #1 to get enough money to pay all the debts to be able to get started again. Because we went from living in poverty to really wealthy to living in less than poverty, having debts. And so we decided the only place we could do this had to be Europe. Australia was a little place at the time, maybe 18 million people, whereas Europe, including Russia and the Ukraine and the former Soviet Union, was 1 billion people. We said, there's a 1 million people market. We're going to go there and conquer that. So we caught a plane with a one-way ticket to London. We got a little cheap hire car for £40 a day. And we drove to the dead centre of London. It was the absolute middle of London, middle of England. We got a big map for $2 from the newsagent. We put a pin right in the middle and it landed on a tiny little village called Henley and Arden. We'd never heard of it, where Shakespeare lived. So we drove to that little village and we got out and we walked around, and there was 2 pubs and a real estate agent, and there was an ice cream shop. That was about it, typical English village. And we lived there for 12 years. We went to the real estate agent and we said, look, here's what's happened to us. We need somewhere to live. Can you help us? He said, how much money have you got? I said, we haven't got any money, but we've got great intentions and goals.
No money.
And no money. He showed us all around that little village in England for 2 weeks, showing us what was available. And it was so expensive. And we were in a little cheap place at the time. And so it was not looking good. But we got to know the real estate agent really well. And after 2 weeks, he rang. He said, look, I've got an idea. I said, what's that? He said, well, I live in this big watermill outside town. He said, I'm not living there now because I live with my girlfriend, but why don't you and Barbara come and live in there and I'll charge you a cheap rent until you get established and get your books going. Well, we couldn't believe it. Because we decided to live there, we went there knowing nobody, so suddenly we're living in a watermill there on the side of town. 2 weeks later, he rang and he said, look, unfortunately, I've broken up with my girlfriend. I have to move back in. And so he moved back in the mill, and we lived with a real estate agent for 3.5 years.
It was not written in the book. It's really a cool story.
Well, we lived with the real estate. We couldn't believe it. Here we are living with a real estate agent in the middle of England, and we started to write the next book, which was Why Men Don't Listen, Women Can't Read Maps. We just started writing at that point. Barbara was running the business and I'm writing, and every day we go through and talk about what it was. And the book was based on our own personal experiences, because first 3 years of our marriage was like a love movie. It was fantastic. Then after 3 years, it was still like a movie, but the movie was Friday the 13th, part 3. We didn't want to get divorced. We knew as a couple we were really great together. We didn't want to get divorced because everybody was getting divorced. So we decided to write a list of all the things about each other we had, and that's where the book came from. It came from the urge of having to make the money to pay the debts, and the title of the book came from our Facebook and intermediate fans. We said to all our fans, here's what we're writing about. What's the best title? And people started volunteering titles, and we massaged the titles till we finally come up with Why Men Don't Listen, Women Can't Read Maps, which was at the time one of the longest titles in the world. And it got published as that, and it sold 13 million copies within 3 years. It was quite a launch. And it went into stage plays, and they made a movie. They made a movie out of it, and podcast, which it became a gigantic thing. And the next 2 books that we wrote also sold 3 million and 4 million copies as well on the same subject. But the thing about it, and I say we knew, just like you were saying before when you read the answer, Otbet, we kind of knew that's what we wanted, and we knew that was going to happen if we wrote it down in writing and focused on it. And that's what happened. Once you write it down, you will see the answers to what to do. But it was, people said to me, weren't you scared going to England? You didn't know anybody, had no money. Well, scared of what? We had no money, didn't know anybody. It doesn't matter. But when we went to Russia, they said, aren't you worried in Russia you don't know anybody? I said, well, no, we don't, but we will. We'll know people. And that's how it all happened. When I look back now, it does sound quite an incredible story, but that's how it happened. Like when you have to, you will. That's what it means. If you have to do something, you will find a way to do it. Most people don't find a way to do things because they don't really have to do it. How am I going here? I feel like a bit of a goose.
It looks great. I don't know if it's a good news. Our interview will last until you finish.
No, it looks great. Oh yeah, okay. Might be
I forget whom I'm talking to. Let me help you. Let me help you.
Yeah, they look pretty good, yeah. Okay.
Let me help you, because if you have 6 hours in a row...
You gave me a lousy pen, that's what it is.
So that's the pin. The other side. Try the other side.
Which one?
Да, yes, вот этот.
That one.
and we are going to talk. This is a great happiness until we finish your drawing. So even if you are bored with interview, you'll still have to finish the drawing. This is our task. After you told me about your moving to the Great Britain, I have a lot of questions. I don't know which one to start with, because on the one hand, how people who wanted to kill each other, how were they able to write a book on relationships? This is some kind of contradictory. Did you experiment on yourself? Did you read some studies, or how did the book come through? Or did you read some other books? Where did you get this information? What can save your relationship? Because this did save your relationship,
It did,
right?
yeah. Well, we wrote the list of everything about each other we couldn't stand. We can't live with these things. And when we ask men to write these lists about their women, they normally have 4 to 6 items that they don't like. So I had 6 items on mine. Barbara got to page 7, and she's still writing. And I said, I can't be that bad. She said, yeah, you're that bad. So we knew what the problems were and what the actions were. Then we researched every book, every writer, every film, every movie. We went to relationship counselors to find the pieces that explained why these things were happening. So that book had 3 parts. And at first, what the problem was that we were experiencing. Then we would write all the science or possible science that could explain why that's happening. So there's a lot of evolutionary biology in that book. And the third thing was the solutions. Here's what you do to make it interesting. And then we made the whole thing funny. Because the more serious a subject is as a writer, the more humour you put in, the more people will listen to it. So we wrote a book called Why Men Want Sex, Women Need Love, which is a pretty heavy subject. So we made that incredibly funny, but still a science-based relationship book, but it's incredibly funny so people can read about things without feeling a bit queasy about it, you know.
I'm really interested if this book was translated in Russian, because I would love to read it. I think...
Yeah, it was #1 in Russia. Yeah, it was a big book.
See, I read books in order to earn more money. This is kind of professional deformation for me.
Yeah, no, it was very, very, very popular. But today, a book like that, certainly in the West and in Europe, some places now they've banned it because the title is Why Men Don't Listen, Women Can't Read Maps. And you're not allowed to say women can't do something that men maybe can do. So in America, they changed the title of that book. They just call it Why Men Don't Listen. I said, well, that's a bit prejudiced against men. They said, yeah, but you'll make the feminists unhappy if you put women can't read maps. So, well, most women, the majority, 3 out of 4, can't read maps. They don't need to read maps. They don't have the spatial and the right part of the brain that allows you to navigate and find direction, which is a hunting skill. They didn't need that. They've got lots of other things that we don't have as men, but that's not one they've got. It doesn't matter. The feminists all think we're all the same. And that's the tragedy of human beings today. And it's dangerous that they teach at school now that men and women are the same. They want the same things, have the same desires, same urges, go to the same places. And if you've had experience with the opposite sex, you know this is just not true. We don't want the same things. And the reality is when you wake up in the morning, you don't want to wake up looking at you. You want to wake up with somebody or something that challenges you, that's unexpected in some ways. And that's exciting. That's where excitement comes. You don't want to wake up with you. I don't want to wake up with me. I want to wake up with Barbara, who's exciting and challenging. However, if you don't manage those exciting, challenging differences, they're the things that send you to the divorce court. So that's why you've got to manage them. People are attracted by the differences, then they get repelled by the differences. And if you learn how to manage them, which is what that book was about, then you can live a really happy life. So Barbara and I have been together for 34 years now, since that first date. And we've got 6 kids and 9 grandkids. And every day is a negotiation. That's the thing about a relationship that most people don't understand. Every day you're negotiating a brand new deal that day with that person for how you live and be happy. And so we don't take anything for granted. So when I say to Barbara, or she says to me, I love you, darling, she means I love you today. I loved you yesterday. Tomorrow we'll decide when the sun comes out. Otherwise you can become complacent and become a pretty boring partner. But yeah, the funny thing about that book when it came out, Why Men Don't Listen, it certainly created a lot of divorces. Because what we say in the book is, if you're waking up with the wrong person, get out. Because half of us finish up in relationships with the wrong person for a number of reasons. We shouldn't be with that person. You've got to cut it early, then write a list of the perfect person and go and find that perfect person. Half the list is what they look like, so you can identify them. And for me, it was a tall, thin, athletic blonde with blue eyes. That's what I wanted, physically. So as soon as I wrote that, all I ever saw was tall, thin, athletic blondes with blue eyes. Oh, you could be one.
I'm happy in my marriage for more than 11 years. I have 2 kids. We have been together with my husband for 17 years, but I will read this book because there are some days when I want to kill him. I want to have less days like this.
Wanting to kill each other is normal. Couples who, and studies show this very clearly, couples who don't argue, who don't fight, don't have good relationships. Like somebody said to me recently, my wife and I have been married for 40 years and we've never argued. I thought, well, that's got to be a pretty boring relationship. It's pretty dull. If somebody's compliant and somebody's is dominant, you are arguing all the time because you want your own rights to feel fulfilled. But if there's no arguments, then there's no fulfillment. But you've got to be able to manage the arguments. If you don't manage the arguments, you're going to finish up on the scrap heap.
In my blog, I had a method that I would like you to explain in terms of science if it was proved, because you have just told this method. The technique was called, if I'm not mistaken, a letter to the future. When you write down all the features of the men that you want to attract, and many girls wrote to me that they were able to attract exactly the same men that they wrote about. I told them that you need to put in a lot of details. If he had children, what about his mother? What is his height? What is his size of clothing? And the girls wrote future letters, and they were able to attract this kind of guy. Is there any scientific justification for that? Because I've got some haters that people tell this is magic. People say this is not ecological, this is not good method.
Well, the scientific evidence shows actually the negative side of that. And you'd know people who are like this too. We all do. Somebody, say maybe a female friend of yours, she's with a guy and she shouldn't be with that guy, and you know it and we all know it, but maybe she doesn't see this. And then they separate, then she attracts exactly the same guy again, same type of guy. And so she repeats the same type of guy, the guy who's mean to her, who abuses her, etc. We know that happens. That's because she has a clearly written list in her mind, and the body is searching for the guys that match that list. So when you handwrite, we know if you key into a computer, you're using between 10 and 15 parts of the brain, connections of the brain to key. It's not much. When you handwrite, there's over 2,000 come straight from your brain down your hand in your pen. That's why handwriting goals is the number one way for data input. Okay, you put it on your computer, you put it everywhere. But initial data input needs to be what we're doing now, which is writing your goals in print. So when you write a list of the perfect partner, you must write what they look like, otherwise you don't know how to identify them. And then the things that you like about them, what their attitude is towards marriage, towards kids, towards finance, towards sex, towards your family, towards their family, towards social. Then you go on dates with the guys who look the way you want and find out whether they match the other half. And if you can find that person, you're going to live happily, because you can live happily with one person forever. But it's not easy. You've got to manage it. And every day is a new negotiation. And that's really the secret, I think. Certainly with Barbara and I, that's our secret. I mean, my eyesight's fading as she gets older. She says that's a really good thing. Yeah, she always looks 16 to me. And so that's really the secret. If you haven't written it on a piece of paper, if it's not written on paper, it's written in your mind, and maybe society wrote, maybe your mother wrote it for you, some other person wrote it on your mind, and you're repeating the same action. But when you write it on paper, it can displace that and put in a new plan.
That list is really great.
Looks like, looks no, mine's not that.
I have been doing this for 3 years. That's why I'm the most famous instructor for neurographics in the world. But at the moment, my world is Russia. And now I'm trying to break through. I want to reach 1 billion person in Europe, Asia. I want everyone to know how to draw neurographics. Neurographic has already fulfilled a lot of goals of mine and my blog, my followers and my profit and the looks I have, and even the fact that we are doing this together with you. Everything was put in the goals on the Neurographics. Actually, you can draw every goal, and of course we start writing at first what we did together with you, and then we start drawing. What you do is you manifest the thoughts for more than 40-50 years. This is one of the rituals for you, how to manifest your dreams. But what should a person start? If a person has a really bad situation now, deaths, illnesses, what would you advise? I know that you were able to conquer cancer.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's possible to conquer, if that's the word, most things that happen. With cancer, it's an interesting one because what I found was that most people who get cancer, if there's enough if there's 3 doctors saying you won't live very long, that person usually doesn't live very long if they believe the doctors. So in my case, they told me at age 47 I would live a maximum of 3 years. I had advanced prostate cancer. They said 100 men your age, 10% will die in the next year, then 30% in the second year, and most of the third will die in the last year. And I remember I said to this doctor, I said, "Would anybody live?" He said, "Yeah, well," he said, "about 3% of men, 3 in 100, will live to be 80 and have a heart attack." And I said, "Okay, well, I want the 3% group. Give me the 3% group." And there's this long silence. And this doctor looked at me and he said, "No, you don't choose the group. That's the medical statistic of 100 men your age and your condition."
But you said, "I will do this."
Well, somebody's got to be in the 3%. Clearly, the 3% must have been doing something, thinking something, eating. There's something they did that 97 didn't do for these 3 to be alive. So I located as many of these 3% group people I could find to find out what did they do. And I developed a program for me, which included being an organic vegetarian. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I go to the gym every day. I only think about positive things, and I rarely suffer stress. If I'm in a stressful situation, I just leave. It's really good. And that's 25 years ago. And look, 2 weeks ago, they gave me another 2 to 3 year life expectancy. They've been doing this for 25 years, 2 to 3 years. That's an average statistic. Doesn't mean that I will meet that statistic. So now they say it's maybe 1 or 2%. Okay, well, I'll be in the 1 or 2% group. I will live to a minimum of age 90. That is my goal. That's what I plan to do. That I've written it on. I've got a famous tattoo about that. You probably read about it. Did you read about my tattoo?
No.
Well, well, I've got a use by date. Excellent until 15 August 2040. And I wrote it on paper and I stuck it on the wall. I kept losing because we write goals down. We lose them. The cleaner would vacuum it. So I decided I've got a tattoo right here on my arm.
Oh.
Right here. That's only for me. I'm not going to show it to you unless you've got a special request.
Okay.
I will believe you. I will believe your word. I believe your word.
Well, every day I get in the shower, it's positioned so I see it. And it tells me every day, this is how you will eat, this is how you will live, this is how you behave. And I'm convinced that that's been a large factor of me living. I'm nearly 73 now, of living to this age. So I'm going to live to a minimum of 90, even though medically and statistically that can't happen. But they said that 25 years ago. So it doesn't mean I'm going to die when I'm 90. I'm just going to get a new tattoo.
This is true. I know that you have made a lot of doubts with medicine, and one story is about cancer, and the second story is the birth of your children.
Yeah.
Can you tell this story?
Well, that one even amazed me, and there's not many things that amaze me. But Barbara and I decided after cancer, I had 3 kids from my first marriage, and she had one child. We didn't have any together, and we decided we'd run our career with the books and solve our life problems, not have kids. So then one day she said, "Look, it'd be really great if we have kids." The problem was she was 41 and I was 55, and I'd had 140 doses of radiation to my prostate and I had surgery, so I couldn't produce viable sperm. So the doctor said, get a dog. I said, get a dog? Well, we want to have kids. No, technically it's impossible. Get a dog. So we decided that we found a technique that came from China where they could harvest DNA from my body. It was a brand new technique, not sperm, but DNA, because I still produce DNA. They would then insert that into Barbara's egg and use the IVF program to birth children. And the doctor said the chances of that happening at her age and with my condition were 3% at the time. She said, okay, I'll go for 3%. And she believed 100% that she was in the 3% group. And we gave birth to Brandon. He turned 19 last Friday. He's a 6'1", 2 metre, very healthy young kid. And the second fetus went into the freezer for 3 years, which is his twin sister.
Сестра, да.
Yeah, it's bizarre. She's his twin sister, and she turned 17 this year. She was in there for 2 years and 10 months. And so his younger sister is technically his older sister, because she was fertilised before. So on the second one, they said, look, your chance of having a second pregnancy, they said, the chance of second pregnancy is virtually zero, and get a dog. And every time a doctor wouldn't agree, we fired the doctor. We didn't want to hear from him. And this is what you do with everything. If people in life won't support you on what you want to do, they keep telling you, no, just put them to the side and find people who say, yes, I think you can do it, people who believe in you. You've got to surround yourself with people who believe you can do something or you won't do anything. And so Barbara was convinced she could give birth to the second one. Personally, I didn't believe it. I'm a statistics guy. 1%, that's too low for me. She was convinced, and so she's buying all these pink baby clothes and wearing them to the supermarket, like pink bibs. And I thought she's lost her marbles. But she said, no, this is going to happen. It's going to happen. And it happened. It was the most incredible demonstration of deciding what you want and getting it. I've never seen anything like that, to be able to do that with your body. Every day she talked to these babies in her body and tell them what she was doing, where she's going, what they're going to think, what their life's going to be like. And it turned out to be exactly that way. I still find it quite amazing, even though I promote the idea all the time in books and speaking of deciding what you want and stick with it, sidetracking people who don't agree with or don't believe in you, and but to do it with your body physically at that age twice. So she gave birth to our second baby at 46, and it's quite mind-boggling that you can do that. But it demonstrates how far you can do it. To do it with 2 pregnancies as an older woman, geriatric they called it. After age 37, they call you geriatric, you know. But it was quite amazing. It really was. That's a real life story that happened to us. It's still hard to comprehend that it happened, but it did. Yeah, that would be probably the single biggest thing that's ever happened to us, to be able to do that.
This is really fantastic. May I help you again? I hope you don't mind.
Yeah, go on. You're telling me I'm no good here, Anastasia, right?
You're doing fine, but because you are a motivational speaker, you speak much better than you draw. I hope you are not insulted. I think that's why you get so much money, you get so big royalties, you are invited for that. That's why 30 countries want to see you, because you speak very well, and I can help you to draw.
Yeah, but I'm a typical male brain person. I have less connections between the left and right brain through the corpus callosum. So, like most men, I do one thing at a time. It's hard to draw and listen. So when I'm talking, I have to stop and look at you.
By the way, I'm not at all offended when you say that men and women are different. I think we should be proud of that. Why some countries people are offended? Why should we be the same? This is the main beauty of it, to be different. Some people can draw, some can drive. This is great that we are different.
Well, in governments, if I'm doing a seminar for governments, they always write me a letter saying you are not to mention men and women because we're all the same here in this department. And so I don't.
What do you think about it?
Well, it's crazy. I mean, they're teaching kids in school.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
They're great. Boys and girls, they're saying you're all the same.
Thank you for saying that.
And the reason they say that, Anastasia, is because they confuse equality with difference. Equality is a legal thing, says for same background, same education, same skills, same culture. You can do the same thing for the same rewards. And difference is a science question. That's where we scan your brain to see, do you think the same way about the same situations? And the answer is, for men and women, for the majority, the answer is no, that we don't think the same. We think differently, not better, not worse. We're different. And when you understand that, it makes it easier to manage someone. I've got 2 teenage kids, and I'm still explaining to them that men and women are different. Because my son was saying, no, men and women are different. That's all the past, Dad. Women don't want a fresh bunch of flowers and box of chocolates and told she's beautiful. I said, she does. Yeah, but my girlfriend is an independent woman who speaks 3 languages.
We still want this.
We still want it. I mean, that's been going on for maybe 1,000,000 years. He wants it. I said, if you do it, boy, you're going to be the most popular guy in town. So on Valentine's Day recently, I made him get out of bed at 6 in the morning. We walked around the garden and we cut with scissors a brand new bunch of fresh flowers. And he said to me, Dad, this doesn't work. You're nuts. That's old fashioned. So he gave them to his girlfriend, and he's 19 and she's 19. He said, I couldn't believe it. She burst into tears, he said, and she's making me breakfast and she's kissing me. He said, the best day of my life. So that's how it works. Men and women are not the same. They're different.
Where do you live now? In which country?
Yeah, now I live in Australia.
Oh, Australia.
Yeah, we live in Australia.
I have never been to Australia. This is my dream to go there.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot of Russians there. It's a very multicultural country, and we live in the tropics in the north, so it's a bit like Dubai. It's got palm trees and coconut trees and whales and blue water and white beaches. It's a really great place. It's a safe place to go, and we decided to move back there when Barbara was having our second child, because we wanted to raise them in a society where there's no guns, there's no violence, there's no cultural issues, and they could be happy and living on the beach. So that's the reason we went back there. If we hadn't have decided to have those kids, we'd probably still be living in Europe. Probably France, maybe a second home in Russia.
Да, здорово.
Down in Sochi or somewhere.
Have you been to Sochi?
Yes, several times, yes. I went there for the Olympics.
Olympics, so did I.
Yeah, it was great. I saw the big ship sailing through the middle with the opera singer on it. And Vladimir Putin was on the other side, standing up with his hand on his heart, singing the national anthem. There's about 90,000 people there. Well, I thought it was a very dramatic, very emotional time.
It was really grandiose.
Yeah, I loved it. Oh, you're so good at this, Natasha. Oh.
Hopefully you don't mind that I help you.
No, good. You're doing half the work. I'll get the credit. They'll say, Alan, you did a fantastic job. Yeah, well, even if you're a really talented guy, if you get a woman who's got talent you don't have and you work together, you get 5 to 10 times the output.
I just got it that you write the books together with a woman, and now we draw together.
Yeah.
This is smart.
Yeah, well, we do it because, see, most personal development books are written by women. 80% are written by women and read by women. Men don't read development books written by...
What kind of books are these? Can you recommend some books?
Yeah, we decided with our books that, because they're relationship books, the first time that we would both have a male and female perspective. So the way it worked is we'd come up with an idea or a piece of science or a problem or a technique, and usually we'd sit down, we'd talk about what it means, and Barbara would make notes, and I would write a draft of what I think it's about. So this is what I think it's about. And I give it to her, then she'd write a female version of what she thinks it's about. And we'd massage it back and forth. Then we'd add the science and add the relationships, which Barbara did that. And then we go back and make it funny. And that's why when anybody reads our books, particularly our relationship books, it's a woman reading and she feels like there's a woman speaking to her. Whereas men will read it and it feels like a man speaking. So we've covered both sides of the market, which is, I think, a large part of the reason why we've been able to sell so many tens of millions of copies of these books, because it's appealing to every market. Also, they're very vulnerable books. We're talking, as you've read one, about our personal lives. And people like you know, talking about your personal life and what bothers you, because they've probably got the same issues that bother them. But yeah, writing with a woman is really good because she comes up with stuff I couldn't possibly think of. You want a good example of this?
Yes, please.
Well, we were writing a book. When you buy the book, this chapter's called woman's point scoring system. And we'd never heard of this. We invented it. And what it means is that for every action that a man and woman takes in a relationship, so every action that you take, you've got a husband, right? Yeah, you got a husband?
Вот.
Oh, this is my husband.
Okay.
Это он.
So for every action you take, whatever you do, he scores you points in his head for how many points from 1 to 10
Так.
for that action. And everything he does, you give him points. So if he takes the garbage out, you give him 1 point. If he washes the dishes, cleans the kitchen, you might give him 3 points. If he dresses nicely going to dinner, you might give him 2 points.
Okay.
And you detract points for things you don't like. And we didn't realise, Barbara and I didn't realise that we were doing this until...
You did it subconsciously?
Yeah. Yeah, one day we're going out to dinner and she put on this engagement ring that I bought for her, a sapphire ring. I spent my last dollars buying this sapphire ring 34 years ago. It's an engagement ring. And I thought, silently as a man, that I'm going to get points for years and years with this ring. Every time she puts the rings on, she goes like that, Allan gets 5 points, which means I don't have to do as much in the relationship. Because I'm getting points.
And she does give you points.
And we're talking about it, and we talked about the points, and we talked about her jewellery. And she said, you got points for the first 3 weeks, but after that, this is my ring. There's no points. So I thought for years I'm scoring points on my credit. In fact, I wasn't. The fact I was scoring points on the credit means I don't have to clean up the kitchen because I don't need those 3 points. And it was creating tension in the relationship. So once I understood...
Because she was wearing the ring.
Yeah, she was wearing... It was her ring. It wasn't my ring. It was her ring. It was my ring that I gave her for the first 3 weeks and I got points. After that, it was her ring.
So what do we do if one of the partners give a lot of points and the other one is taking the credit, not doing anything for points?
Well, this is a big problem with men and women, that people get upset and angry in marriages and in relationships when they think that they're putting too much in and the other person's not. But the other person might think they're putting in plenty because they think they're getting these points. Like every time I said something negative about Barbara's mother, I lost 5 points. But I didn't know that. I thought she didn't like her mother that much too, but I lost 5 points. And so suddenly I'm sleeping on the couch because I've lost all these points and I don't know why I'm there. So what the point scoring system that we found with couples, that's been a very, very, very revealing thing for couples to work out how they value things. Because men and women, we value things differently. We don't think the same way about things. Barbara does things and has behaviours that I don't understand. But I don't say, you're an idiot, you shouldn't do it my way, because that's a man's way. I just say, okay, well, she's a woman, it's really sexy. And I do stuff that makes no sense to her at all. And one of the big differences you find with this is in your love life. Men have things we want in our love life that make no sense to women. And so as a result of that, women think we must be perverts or something like that. We're not. We're just the way we are. But if you understand how women think about that as a man, then your life becomes much easier. And you don't get frustrated and upset about it. We only get upset and fight about things when we don't understand the causes and don't have a solution for fixing the problem. So Barbara and I have a solution to most things, but that's only most things today. Tomorrow, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
It will be new, something new.
Yeah, I've got to wake up and think of something and make sure that I'm entertaining her properly tomorrow.
I feel very comfortable with you because I'm always smiling. You make a lot of jokes. And as I said, I haven't finished the book about body language. I don't know what you really feel, but I feel very comfortable. And thank you very much for moving the drawing because I keep helping you. But it feels like we have been known each other for many, many years. And we have come together to do it together, to be healthy together and to have fun and maybe do the same in 15-20 years. Tell me this thing. What do you teach your children? Now we have small children and we are afraid they will be spoiled by the possibility by our money. How did you manage to bring up your children with the right principles so that they don't become spoiled and pampered, they still have interest for life?
Well, yeah, that's a real problem too, because Barbara and I both came from poor families, so we know what it's like not to have anything. We understand how that works. We didn't think that was bad. There's a lot of good lessons in that as we got older. With our kids, our philosophy is we will not do for them what they can and should do for themselves. So as parents, we'll do for them and help them for things that maybe they don't know, don't understand, and need help with. But once they know how to do stuff, we're not going to help them. So we don't give them any money. We give them support, encouragement, and techniques to make their lives better. And we've told all of them, six of them, when we die, there'll be no money left for anybody. It's all going into trust. There's nothing left. So don't hang around waiting for the lottery, because it's not going to happen. Because when you give large amounts of money to anybody, they usually become obese, obsessed, arrogant, and die early. And we know this with lottery. People that win the lottery, 5 out of 7 file for bankruptcy in America within 5 years, because they eat like pigs. They spend their money on stuff trying to win people's love, and it just doesn't work. So, I object to the lotteries. The lottery in Australia recently, there was $200 million won by one person. The guy was an electrician with an electrical van. Now, they've ruined this guy's life. He's going to move to another area where rich people live, and they won't accept him because he doesn't think the same way. And so if they gave $1 million to 200 people, that's much better. So we do that with the kids. We don't do for them what they can and should do for themselves. Otherwise, they become useless people. Because as a parent, your goal is to raise kids so they are productive and useful people and can look after themselves and look after their own families if they have one. You don't want a spoiled brat.
When they were children, did you try to motivate them to earn money? Maybe as children, maybe when did they learn how to earn money? What was the time when they learned what money is?
When they were born.
Oh.
Yeah, because all of our kids have travelled with us around the world with their books for years. They know what we do, they know how it goes, and we explain the concept of how to make money, how to make business, and why it's important. And the main purpose of making money is to make your own life good for your own kids, and then to help other people when you've done that. And so this is a concept that's been with us right from the very start. That we didn't want to raise kids who are useless or arrogant or rude or something like that. We wanted kids to have skills to look after themselves and look after other people. So it didn't happen suddenly. It's been a constant thing from the day they were born. Like my son said to me recently, now our kids never ask us for money, but he said, oh, I'm going to go to Brisbane this weekend. I want to take my girlfriend out. He said, I just haven't got the money. And I wasn't sure whether he's claiming he didn't have the money or whether he was putting it on me to give him some. I just said, what are you going to do about it? He said, I don't know, I'll think of something. I said, good boy, go for it. And I just walked away from that. And somehow, I don't know how he did it, but he got the money. And they went out and they had a weekend in Brisbane and had a great time. I said, this looks like my mother-in-law's varicose veins.
This looks like varicose veins of my mother-in-law.
Fortunately, she won't see this program, so I can speak freely.
Wait, I have big plans. I want to be world famous. Like you. I want my masterclasses be translated in 56 languages.
Okay, well, you've done the hardest part, which is making the decision.
This is true.
Yeah, most people don't make a decision about most things. They just say, I wish I had a nice house on the beach, or I wish I had a really great partner, and I wish I had a nice car. But they don't actually set it as a goal. It's just a wish.
Do you still make goal lists? By the way, I was quite impressed in the answer that you wanted to learn how to do step dancing, and you managed to do this. And I didn't know that you should write these things.
Yes, yeah, it's constant. Like in the middle of last year, I saw a documentary on television about Antarctica and the animals, and I looked at it. I said to Barbara, we're going to Antarctica. And she said, okay, all right, we'll go there. And I knew nothing about Antarctica, but as soon as I decided, I started to see it in magazines and newspaper ads. It was appearing on my computer. Cruise ships, want to go to Antarctica? I said, yeah, click. And we went there for December. We spent a month in the South Pole, and we kayaked around the icebergs in the South Pole. And it was absolutely just amazing, beyond anything we've ever done before. That was a goal that just appeared overnight and happened within 6 months. Whereas tap dancing took 15 years. I decided as a young man, I've been watching
15 years.
the movie about, 15 years, yeah. Well, it only becomes a final goal when you put a deadline on it. And I'd watched that movie, Singing in the Rain. The guy tap dances up and down the sidewalk, and it's raining. He's got an umbrella. And when I saw that when I was a teenager, I said, "Wow, look at that! I want to do that." And I wrote on my list, become a great tap dancer. But I never put a deadline on it because it was only like a minor goal, it was a small thing. I wanted to learn to moonwalk like Michael Jackson too, so I put that on the list. That was easy. I did that within about 3 weeks. As soon as I put it on there, I was answering my emails, and it said, "Want to learn to moonwalk?" You know, those little boxes. "Want to learn to moonwalk?" Yes. And on YouTube, I learned how to moonwalk, which is a little thing, and it's crazy. I mean, my kids' friends thought I was fantastic because I could moonwalk like Michael Jackson. And the tap dancing was, I put it on the list, and then you make a master list, and then you divide it into 3 lists: A, B, C. A are things you were definitely going to do. That's a scary list because when writing it there, you are committing that you will do this. B are really exciting things you think you're going to do them, but you need more information. And C is just ideas. Tap dancing, go to Antarctica, bungee jump. And so I was 38 years of age, driving through the main town of this little village we lived in. There's a sign that said, "Tap dancing, sign here." So I reversed, I went in and we signed up. Started tap dancing. I tap danced around the Civic Centre for 4 months with a lot of fat ladies.
4 months.
Yeah. Well, the course was 3 months. I tap danced for 4 months and I was terrible. I was no good. They told me, "Look, save your money. You got 3 left feet, boy." I mean, I thought I was going to be a great Anastasia, but I wasn't any good at. Yeah, I didn't think. I thought I was going to be good and love it, but I didn't. And that's the thing about writing goals now. About writing everything you've ever wanted to do in your life. You write on a list, and the reason you didn't do it because life got in the way. You got a career, or you got married, you lived overseas, and all the reasons we give for why we never did things we wanted to do. And so tap dancing was one of them, and I put a line through it, finished. And the reason it's important to have a line through it if you don't like it. I did the same with sailing. I bought a boat. I wanted to learn to sail to the horizon. I went out 3 times and I thought, this sucks. I didn't like it. So I put a line through it and sold the boat. So when I'm on my deathbed, I will not come up on one elbow and say, "If only I'd learned to tap dance and sail." I won't say that. I did tap dance. I did. When I go in a grave, well, I'm not going to a grave, I'm going into cryosuspension, but if I went into a grave, I'd be going in there fast saying, "Wow, what a ride that was. Body's busted, marks everywhere, everything's twisted, but we had a fantastic ride." This is looking pretty good. Mine's better than yours. Might have to give you some instructions.
So we are approaching the final stage. Now we have to color up this drawing. You can choose any colors. Our task is not to make a mosaic. We need to connect several sections with one color to make one abstract shape. This creates a neural knot in the brain. You can choose any colors and color them up. We do not have the task to color up the complete drawing. You can take part of it and then leave the rest white. Try a marker.
Okay.
Whatever you tell, this is really extraordinary, but what about your wish list? Were there any goals that you refused consciously, that you decided you do not need this goal anymore because it was just emotions and you don't need it anymore? What happened in this case?
Well, yeah, that's true. And tap dancing was one of those. I thought I really wanted to do it. But you don't really know if you want to do something until you're halfway through. You don't really know. And when you're halfway through, you can see things you didn't see before, which bring up new goals. So when I was tap dancing, I found it really hard, and I wasn't good at it, and so I quit. But one of the women who was tap dancing in the club, she said she was doing English jive, which is like American rock and roll, but the English version of it. And she talked about it, and I said, Barbara, this sounds fantastic. Let's do this. So we joined a jive club, and we became really good rock and roll dancers, and we love it. But if I had not have gone to the tap dance class, I probably would never have found
So
out
tap
about
dancing.
that.
So the tap dance was the key.
It was the introduction to it. Like there's a friend of mine from Russia. He moved to where I live in Australia on the Sunshine Coast. So Sunshine Coast is here, and the capital city, Brisbane's here. And he said, one of my guys, I want to catch the train and go to Brisbane, see what it's like. Now, I said, okay. So he bought a ticket, he set the date, he got on the train. He thought he was going to live in Brisbane, and he got halfway through, on the train is an area called Glasshouse Mountains, massive mountains, and it's just expansive and beautiful. He got off the train to have a look, and he's lived there for 6 years. He never got to Brisbane. But if he didn't set the goal to go to Brisbane, he wouldn't have known to get off the train at the Glasshouse.
So he would never get there.
Yeah, so that's right. So you start with a plan to go here, but he ended up here, and he's the happiest guy ever. He's living on a farm in the Glasshouse Mountain, growing fruit and vegetables. Pretty cool.
What is the favorite place of yours in the world?
Well, other than Australia, I love living in Australia. That's a great place. I always loved going to Russia. I've always loved it. For me, it's like going
This is so nice to hear.
it was like a different culture and a different place and different people, and the big cities like St. Petersburg and Moscow. I love those places. The train stations in Moscow, and I've been to almost every city in Russia, from Vladivostok to Krasnoyarsk.
You have just traveled, or was it with the seminars and events?
Семинары.
Well, normally it would start with seminars, and then we'd add on an extra 4 or 5 days and visit the area. And the area I really loved was the mountains outside Krasnoyarsk, Siberia.
Красноярск.
That was just so beautiful in there, and we hiked through the mountains there, and it was just so great. An experience that Westerners just would never hear about, would never do. And Russian people have always been really good. Russia's been really good to me. And we've been best-selling authors there, Barbara and I, and we're always treated really well. And it's a very different culture that we really love. And since COVID, and now of course with all the war going on, we haven't been back, and we really miss it. So coming here to Dubai, doing a Russian seminar with
ждем.
Russian people.
We are looking forward for your coming back.
Well,
Да.
the funny thing about it with the seminar here, I went to the seminar here
Да.
yesterday. It was all Russians and a few
Да,
I know
Ukrainians
about
and
it,
a
yes.
few. Well,
Да.
everybody was dressed like they were in Moscow. It was like they're all getting married, all dressed like a wedding. Which is what they're doing, right? Yet outside is the beach, and there's a camel walking along the beach.
And everybody was wearing suits.
Suits and ties and beautiful clothing, like a fashion parade.
Look at me, I also have a nice outfit. I even have diamonds in my buttons because I was prepared. Meeting you is a big event
Oh,
for
yeah.
everyone.
You got a bit of Michael Jackson going on here.
Да.
I did my best.
But also, you did a good job. Well, the funny thing, Anastasia, I've done Russian seminars in Thailand. I've done them in Bali. I've been to seminars here in,
Да.
and it's just like being in Moscow. It's like being back in Russia, because they dress like in Bali. They're dressed up with diamonds and high shoes. And right here's a beach with little kids there with boats paddling and catching fish.
I'm proud of Russian women. High heels at the seminar in Bali. I'm proud of Russian women. Russian women are happy because they're women. They do not like any gender differences. They get the points from men for wearing high heels and for having freshly washed hair.
Yeah, it's very popular in Australia for Australian men to marry Russian women. It's a very, very popular thing. And I think there's a good reason for that, is that Russian women generally are, you're just so fast. Russian women generally are independent, and they like education. They want to run their own life, very solid. But they're probably the last of the women who understand that to be in a relationship with a man, you've got to be a really beautiful woman as well. And so Russian women generally are overall are great dressers. beautiful in the way they deal with their men, but they're independent at the same time. And in the West, they're independent and they're tough. They run their own business, but they look like a bag of crap. They just don't dress right. They say, well, we're all the same now. I don't need to be attractive for a guy. And the hard reality is, as a woman, you do, because the thing men look for in women, and we found this in writing The Why Men Don't Listen book, the thing they look for is youth and health. These are the evolutionary biological urges that men have for women. We're looking for youth and health. So even when you get older, if you haven't got youth and health and you can't produce babies after age 40, women still go, they get makeup, they get their hair done. They say, look, she's 55 and she's so beautiful. All these young men are chasing her. Well, she doesn't have a biological advantage for young men. But young men's brains think that she does because she still looks like she's 25. And I think Russian women seem to understand this on a deep level. They have never been taught it by their mothers. You don't get this in the West. A lot of the women there look like men. In fact, for $10,000, you can become a man.
Oh.
Choice.
Listen, I'm motivated now. I want to go to Australia because you told me so much about Australia, and it's so great to travel in Australia. And even what you tell about Russia, it motivates me because I already visited 42 or 33 countries, but I have never been to Australia. Where should I go?
Oh, everywhere.
Oh, everywhere, really?
Well, see, you got to remember.
Where are the spiders?
It's everywhere. Well, two of my goals on my list you would have read in the book were to become a spider catcher and a snake catcher. And I did that because I had fear of snakes and spiders. And so I live in a rainforest in Australia.
I'm also afraid of them.
Yeah, most people are. I live in a rainforest, so it's full of them everywhere. And I made a point of learning how to catch them and how to protect myself against them. Otherwise, I would fear them, so I don't fear them now. I respect them, but I don't fear them. How am I going? Is this looking like something?
It looks great. You have understood the main principle. That's true. That's true.
Great. You're making that up because you want me to sign your book. Come on.
This is true.
I
know that I can earn some points by praising men, and women use it.
Getting 8 points for this.
So, to my collection.
Allan,
tell me more about positive effect of laughter, because we have been drawing for 2 hours and I'm always smiling. I always get some cripples in my muscles, but I'm very euphoric. So tell me about laughter.
Well, the science behind laughter is very clear, has been for a while, that when you laugh, we make a sound, it's a primate sound, and it goes like this. Monkeys and chimps do this too. And so it's when you laugh and laugh hard, you release endorphins from your brain, which fills your... Endorphins is a chemical version of morphine. So you give yourself a hit, you become high. That's when you're with friends and you're laughing and laughing, you feel really good, you're tingling because you've actually anesthetized your body with endorphins. And the good thing about this, if you decide to intentionally laugh, like you get up in the morning, try this tomorrow, better warn your husband if you're going to do it. Get up and stand in front of the mirror early and look at yourself and just laugh for 1 minute. Just go. You've got to tell.
That goes to teaser.
You've got to tell your family you're going to do this, or they'll think you're crazy. So after 1 minute, you will feel like you've been taking drugs. I mean, I've never taken drugs, but other than in a hospital, and that's what it feels. It feels like being on morphine. So when you leave the house, you are flying out of the house. Most people wake up in the morning on the hour, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and the first thing they listen to is the news. And there's 7 things telling you how bad life is. So you never set your clock for 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock. Set it for 4 minutes past so you don't hear the news, because if anything's important, everybody will tell you. If everybody's not talking about something you didn't need to know, 4 minutes past is important because that's the weather. You need to know what to wear.
I agree with that. I don't watch any news, I don't read the news. You're totally right. If there is something important, somebody will tell me.
Yeah, I don't listen to it either because a lot of it is manufactured news. A lot of it's propaganda. And You know, I was in Crimea during the annexation of Crimea. I was there that week doing seminars. And I watched the news, the Western news on TV, BBC and CNN, and they were showing what was happening, and they showed guys with Kalashnikovs and guys with balaclavas and bombs, and I was there, and that was not true. It was propaganda. So what America accuses the rest of the world of doing, the Islamics and the Russians, they did that in Crimea. They made up stories that weren't true. Because my son was with me, he said, "Dad, where is all this?" I said, well, it was a celebration. Crimea was a celebration. People, because just about everybody in Crimea was related to Russians anyway. They were like cousins. And they were drinking vodka, and it was a big party for a week. Nobody got killed. It was just an exciting thing. Yet the rest of the world's decided it was World War III, which it wasn't. So that's, you know, I decided from that date I will not listen to any news. If anything is so important, when I go out, everybody's going to tell me. And if they're not all telling me and not talking about it, then it wasn't worth knowing about.
I have made the wish that our interview should become a virus. It should have 100 million viewers, and it scares me a little bit. Are you planning to write some more books? Do you have any creative plans regarding books, new seminars? What should we expect from you?
Well, yes. I mean, as I said before, I miss going to Russia. That was been a highlight of my life, half of my adult life, or more than half my adult life. I'm writing a book at the moment that's a cartoon book. And I'm doing hand illustrations, and I give it to an illustrator, and he does good ones. So this is quite interesting. It's a book on climbing to the top of the ladder, or what's at the top. It'll be called probably What's at the Top. So that's coming. I don't have any plans to do any more big books. We've written 18 books. There's 11 number ones in a row. Since we decided to do number ones, we've had 11 consecutive in a row. And to do any more it's not a challenge, you know, it's the same thing. We know it'll be a bestseller, and we know we'll be on the road going around the world. So a lot of it, the time Barbara and I have now, is put into kids and grandkids, because, you know, we've got so many of them. And that's good fun. That's rewarding, and, you know, we really love it and have a good time. And so I've got no immediate plans. I'd like to get back in Russia again. It was funny you were talking before about humour. You know, if you laugh and smile all the time, you pump endorphins into your body, which releases pain and heals you better. So that's why happy people live longer. We know that they live a lot longer. And one of the things that was always in my program in Russia and the Ukraine that wasn't in other countries, teaching people how to smile, because generally they didn't smile in Russia, because during the Soviet period, when most people had to go in the army for a period of time, smiling was against the rules. If you were smiling as a soldier, you're obviously not serious about your business, and so you might be thrown in the jail. And so they didn't smile. So here is a Russian man showing happiness. You ready? Now a Russian man showing sadness. Now a Russian man showing excited. Now as a woman, you know exactly what I'm talking, because you see this all the time. Right? We teach Russian guys, if you're going to deal with people outside Russia, especially women, you've got to smile, because if you don't smile, you're going to think you're a miserable son of a bitch. Man, yours are so good.
Thank you.
Yours is really good. Mine looks like an X-ray of my intestines. Oh boy, I need some tablets if that's what they look like.
I love your jokes.
Well, like you said before, when you're laughing all the time, you learn more, you recall more, you medicate yourself, and it's contagious. Everybody around you laughs as well, and it draws people towards each other. Like nobody wants to spend time with with the Soviet faces, I call them.
Советским лицом, да. Так, ну
So,
что, у нас с вами
my drawing is practically finished, just a little bit to finish. Do you want to add some more color? Are you involved in this? Do you like the process? Or maybe you are a hostage to me?
This is really fun. Well, I'm hostage too, but this is really fun. I just wish I could get, like yours is really, looks like the planets and the sun and the moon. Mine looks like somebody dropped a pizza.
But you managed to write 18 bestsellers. You don't need the drawings like this. You have a great life anyway.
Well,
Окей.
yeah. Well, I'd rather pay you the money and you drew the drawings.
Кстати, это
By
очень
the way, this is a good idea to delegate. I love delegating, but we are making a plastic surgery to our brain now. This is true, because without having surgical instruments, we are creating new neurons.
И
Okay, so where does this end up? What's the bottom line of what we're doing here? Where do we?
That's it. Look at my drawing. I'm finishing it by my own, and I will help you. The final result is to fix one of the shapes. I will fix the circle. Circle is a very harmonic shape, and when we talk about health, we need harmony in our drawing. So this will be it. This will be the final result of the drawing.
Yeah. All right, so how does health relate to what we're doing here then, with what we wrote, what I wrote earlier?
Look, when you dedicate so much time to finger movements and drawing, when you really put in your creative energy, you are creating an art. This is art. At this moment, you are creating a new neural connection in your brain. And deep inside, through subconscious, you give a new goal to your brain. Those words that you have written before, we have now rounded them to circles. And now we are doing softly, without any psychologist, without any hypnotist. We have explained to our subconscious what it should do. And our subconscious should strive towards health. Health is very difficult to measure if you have become really healthy as before the drawing. When I started doing neurographics, I love figures and I love experiments. So I made a goal to increase my income because I always had good health. I was already married, I already had kids. It seems like I did not have any particular goals, but I wanted to know why somebody earns more and another person earns less. What are the reasons why I cannot grow my income? I started drawing these drawings for income, and my income grew more than 50 times in 3 years. And every time when I drew a new drawing, I gave myself a new financial goal. Then the goal was achieved, then I set another goal, and then I was really surprised, and then I started using it in the other areas of life, for relationships, for health, in your destiny, and I started drawing everything, and that was the time when I was able to lose weight and solve a lot of problems. This is a really cool method of working with yourself. That you have learned new experience, and hopefully it was interesting for you. It would be nice to get your feedback.
Now, this is really, I mean, I've never done anything like this. I'd never heard of this science or this art before. I mean, it makes sense to me how it would work, but I'd never seen anybody do this. And the thing about the list I wrote, I can remember everything on that list. I could probably recite what's on that list.
The lists is a great tool, and of course we make lists, and I make lists practically every day. I rewrite them, I recall them without looking in my previous lists in order to focus on the goals that are really relevant for me today. Which book should be the starting book? If a person has never read any book of Soyuz, what book she should start with?
Oh, that's a hard question. I say all of them, but probably Utvat, because that shows you how to direct your life and how to get what you want, and also shows you why you haven't got what you want. That's a start.
What you want.
Алан, спасибо
Thanks a lot. I'm really grateful to you. Today it was a very special day for me because you are the first world star, the first world-renowned author with whom I draw Neurographics, and I hope I will get this tradition and I will have a lot of people hosted. Thank you for changing lives in Russia and life of people in the world, for giving us hope by your example. How much can a person achieve and overcome when he is striving towards the goal? For me, I'm talking about myself. This is extremely important, and this really motivates, because looking how it works for you, I really believe that I can do this too. Thank you very much for this interview, and you've got a great drawing.
You can sign this.
О,
This is very nice of you. Maybe after many years we can sell this drawing for $1 million because I'm going to become the most popular artist in the world.
When you're famous, it's going on Amazon.
Great. All the best to everyone. Write your comments and thank Allan, and we will show this to Allan. Do you want to add something or maybe say goodbye to the audience? Maybe some kind of message for the audience?
Well, first, thank you for having me on the show. This is unique and unusual. I've never done anything like this. And it's also very therapeutic. I can feel the therapy in this. This is really good. So thank you for all watching, and thank you for being participants of all the seminars I've done in Russia over the last 34 years. And I hope to be back there doing it again when the time is right.
We are looking forward to see you again in Russia.
Yeah, me too. Спасибо.
Thank you.